Hello, everybody. So, as Torben already promised, that in this panel we will speak about practical learning points from DINOCAP project. We will speak about examples, how we have supported and support digital transformation among the SMEs, especially coming out there the point, let's say, where the cross-border cooperation. What I liked very much also Torben brought out that why to do this kind of things in cross-border. So I'm happy to introduce all the panelists. It's my honor that I have had chance to work with them together already a couple of years in digitalization projects. And I can promise and say that all they are the digital-minded leaders who have this kind of same or common goal, that how to support SMEs in their digitalization path. So to be very concrete and go straight forward to the topic, then we will look through this kind of concrete things, outcomes, what we did and tested during the DINOCAP project, or some of them were already made during project before that. And we had now the time and possibility to test it. And let's look through the main outcomes and see what else could we do together. So my first question would be actually for you, Māra. That I know that LIKTA worked out the self-assessment tool for the companies, and we I think, successfully used it also in Estonia and in our project partnering countries. We used them during the DINOCAP project and tested them. But could you now shortly introduce what the tool was about to all our viewers who haven't touched it or haven't had a chance to test it themselves? And then what were the main outcomes when we speak about, especially that different countries had a chance to test it?
Yeah, good afternoon to all. And thank you for the question. So the digital online tool was actually developed 3 years ago in Latvia within Smart Latvia campaign, and it targets 2 main goals. One is awareness raising about the digitalization, digital transformation aspect, and the other one is about measuring where companies stand currently. And it is targeted mostly for company leaders, managers, owners, and development managers. Currently, we have used it in 4 countries where we have meaningful data. Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, and Poland. And if you talk about differences, there is not so much differences among the countries. But there are 2 other factors that really make difference in the digitalization level of the companies. And this is firstly industry sector, and secondly is the size of companies. So basically we have results from different companies where about 40% are production or industry sector companies, mostly machine building, metalwork, but also agriculture and forestry. And about 60% of the companies who use the tool are from the service sector, starting from financial, legal, information technology services, as well as transport, logistics, and others. And what are the general trends that we can observe? First of all, the service sector is in general more advanced in digital transformation. So it's higher percentage of digitalization of different business aspects. Secondly, if we look at the business processes, then we see that the lowest digitalization is currently of the production digital transformation, and also management of human resources. How do you manage it digitally? And the highest are for communications and security. and especially, of course, for the service sector company. And the third trend, of course, that the size of the company is very important factor. From all our respondents, we have about 60%, which represents the small and micro enterprises. It means companies below 50 employees. And here's the digitalization level for different business aspects and also general are much lower than for larger companies. This is a general trend. Of course, we will explore it in details for every sector of the country, and the public report will be available at the December.
I hope we understood you rightly. There are a little bit sound issues, but hopefully we correctly heard you. And I think you brought out a similar, the thing what we have assumed or spoken very much, that the general level of digitalization among the smaller companies is lower than like the bigger companies, which is actually regarding the workforce and quite assumable. My next question would be for you, Ola. That I think you at least tried to do something totally, let's say, mission impossible during this project to find out the silver bullet. Is it possible to say that use this method and then everybody understand what the digitalization is?
No, Doris.
What were the findings for you, or what you find out from the interviews, or what you can success from that?
Well, sorry to say, there is no silver or golden bullet when it comes to awareness making. I think that what we have done, my colleague and I, Henrik Florén, is that we have focused on synthesizing experiences from the BSR region, and also from an SME support system perspective. And we have made a study on awareness and using awareness as a method in terms of making digital transformation. And this study is based on 11 interviews, plus then also our own experiences, since we have worked quite a lot within this area as well. And it carries out input then from 5 countries in the region. And if we are to very briefly and also noted in layman terms explain the term of awareness, one could say that awareness is more a cognitive predisposition. It's about openness and ability to see opportunities with digital technologies. It is very much a question of a mindset. And if we compare awareness to knowledge is also important, but more related than to the capability to act upon digitalization opportunities that you find. And again, please note that this is the quick layman explanation rather than the research declaration of the topic, but just to put you in the right seat. So in the report, we list several key findings from this study and these interviews, and perhaps we can point out a couple of them. Number one, awareness needs to be recognized, understood, and also used almost as a tool in the process. Meaning that in transformation processes, awareness making is highly important. Without a change in mindset and a change in ways of thinking, which then awareness brings, it will be very hard to get real change and effects from implementing new technology, such as digitalization. It actually might even give negative results for the SME in specific. Number two, awareness creation can come in many shapes and also many formats. And this variation is all okay. In the interviews, we have seen that what suits one company to better understand digital transformation is perhaps not working for another company. and any shape, whether it's being workshops, storytelling, lectures, or any other mechanisms or methods used. And we also list and explain a couple of them, these methods and mechanisms in the report. But any of them needs to have a slight dynamic approach and have room for a flexibility that puts specific companies' needs and ideas into focus and open up for discussion around them as well. A third finding that is perhaps quite obviously and is related to the one I just mentioned is that awareness also comes in both soft and hard versions. Hard then being ways of grasping technology and understand demands for the technology likewise. The soft awareness, however, has more to do with the mindset again coming up now. Ways of thinking, organization, continuous learning for the staff, and to be able to also think about consequent effects. Both the soft and the hard awareness are most needed and valuable, but we would stress that in relation to really take on the transformation, the soft one is the hardest to be without. A fourth finding is that for get going in terms of digital transformation, it is better to use blinking in smaller steps rather than to, as for accelerated digitalization, to use longer views and building more in-depth knowledge. So with blinking, we mean that it's to show the participant just briefly information about high-end technology and not to stay on in talking about the high-end technology. It's better to just blink it and then move forward to the company's need. And longer views then, of course, is to show the technology for a longer session and then talk more about it as the company and the individuals have progressed towards a more upbuild awareness. We tend to often strive for doing the versions of bigger things, no matter what the level of the starting point is. But many times to actually get going, it's much easier and quicker to scale down what we try to do. And this also is actually relevant to when we try to do larger steps and larger movement into transition. It is often good to scale down, to slice down the elephant. And this is actually something that we are not that good at. One expression that we have used in our own activities is lower the bar for doing things at the same time as you raise and challenge the bar for the ways of thinking. So, sorry to say, no, there is no one golden bullet when it comes to the awareness creation and taking on the transformation. But maybe the report can share some light on a set of ammunition that can be used for awareness making, both then initially and also down the line of transformation. This digital transformation is a fuzzy landscape and it equals to challenges then. And also, unfortunately, the path of digitalization is not that straightforward and consists of many decisions, which make it even fuzzier. This report is now getting its final touches and will be published on the DinoCap website well before Christmas. So please hook up to DinoCap and read the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ola. I hope that we have a time afterwards to come back to this blinking part of the idea that soft and hard is hard, like awareness part, because I couldn't read all the sign. That's why that not yet. But as we have two panelists also here on the place, I'm very happy about that I don't have to be here alone. And Knud, question for you. That here we spoke about awareness raising and all this kind of, and then was also the question about regarding the technologies came on the picture, that as a hard part of the awareness raising. And then anymore we can't speak about digitalization without speaking, let's say, for example, the cybersecurity. And you during the project did a research about that how we evaluate in the BSR region the SMEs readiness and their knowledge about the cybersecurity readiness.
Yeah. First, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here in person and together again after a long time. I mean, as Torben has already indicated, I mean, in Aalborg University has looked at the drivers, the barriers in the digital development policies related to that as the basics for the RTE development. And we've been able to follow these things in Digino, and we're pleased to see that as far as we could judge in seminars talking to organizations, the work of Māra and Ola, I mean, digitalization is developing. And furthermore, I mean, during the COVID situation, there's apparently been a quicker take-up, both at the European level and also in the PSR countries, where you have especially more online shopping and you have more remote working. But then with that comes also issues of cybersecurity. If we very broadly say that cybersecurity issues is about unwarranted interference with digital activities, then it's quite clear that the more activity you have, the more issues we'll have. And we have actually seen that also. Just today, I saw that the Danish authorities are being overwhelmed, buried with issues related to cybersecurity and attacks. I mean, so far, it's been mostly been the thinking that it's mostly big companies that are exposed to this. I mean, we have heard about, and it takes more press, of course. When you hear Sony have like millions of lost data, you hear Google have lost a lot of email addresses. Maersk, the Danish shipping company, has lost the connection to all their containers all over the world. That's a major issue. And smaller companies, SMEs, are definitely less exposed to it. But still, there's indications that 10 to 20% has been exposed to cyber attacks during the last year or so. Cypher's numbers are a bit unsecure. People are not very willing to talk about this. But even if you say it's only 10%, I mean, 90% of the companies in the EU are actually SMEs. So 10% of millions and millions of companies, actually quite a number. And the problem in this relation is that SMEs are definitely less prepared for cyber attacks than big companies. There have been surveys showing that most SMEs actually have very basic measures in place, like passwords, like antivirus programs, but typically they do not update it sufficiently. I mean, you do not get the new versions, you do not take care of passwords being changed and so on and so forth. And the result is that, again, a bit of insecurity in the numbers, but something like 40% of the SMEs in the EU is almost open to cyber attacks. And this is definitely a problem. I mean, it comes down to like, there's a third, again, you can define that in different ways. The SMEs are a third less protected than the big companies. So there's definitely an issue about what to do here. One thing is we can discuss what should the measures do, but I think it's without doubt that there's an issue. Now we have heard about all the positive things that's going on, and that's of course good. But these things will not continue, will not be positive only if we do not do something about cybersecurity related to SMEs, as far as I can see it. We have not done that much. I mean, we have learned that by the end of the project, but I certainly think there's an open and burning issue here.
Ola, I'm throwing Põld back to you. Do you agree with the Knud that in the future, when we speak about awareness raising and digital awareness raising, then we should always speak it together also about the cybersecurity?
Yeah, this is also something that we have been discussing in our experiences in Sweden. in terms of cybersecurity going hand in hand with digitalization, or actually cybersecurity should go ahead of digitalization. Again, then it's digitalization is a vast area and something that is hard for SMEs to grasp. And then we add on also the cybersecurity, which it also is a vast area. So that's it brings on even more pressure than on the SMEs. But I agree totally. It is like a ticking bomb. We see day by day more threats and penetrations coming to SMEs. So this is something very important to start also roll out projects in terms of supporting SMEs on adding on more cybersecurity. And many times, which Knud Erik mentioned, it's actually also quite easy steps. Upgrade passwords, routines, upgrade the equipment that you already have, and make sure that you have a good, competent partner on the consultant side to support you on the cybersecurity.
Thank you. Now I would like to go on with you, Anders. You are as, let's say, you are as a user point of view now here, because we had luck to collaborate with you in order to use this kind of tools, what we did in Dinoca project, and to together the awareness raising job for the SMEs. So what you see in everyday life in the field, when you work with the SMEs, that are these kind of tools or this kind of like different kind of methods for awareness raising used, are they, how to say, helpful for the SMEs? Is there a point to do it?
Yes, thank you, Doris. Thank you for having me. I think there is two values we can have. Firstly, the value for the public sector. So if we are using Digino tool, for instance, and using the self-assessment tool, then public sector will know better how to build up the different systems for support and to understand better. Secondly, from the company side of point of view, I think it's not so valuable. First of all, but there might be different reasons for that. One reason can be they don't understand so well where the value lays, it's hidden for them. So there is no awareness enough to understand. So then another reason can be the pain right now, what they are having, is so much bigger. So then they don't value the measurement with somebody or between some different areas. So that they will just say, okay, I need solution for that. This is short and simple. We have to do this because right now, during the pandemic situation where all the logistics systems are hurt and suddenly in Estonia there also smaller companies have bigger demand for the services because the orders are coming back from Asia. Then they have to work harder to give their services, and that's the next problem. Then they don't put so much emphasis on looking forward to the digitalization. So they are dealing with everyday life, and they struggle with their fires there in sight. So I think we started the cooperation. But Doris, I need to explain a bit what we did. We started with the short pilot project, where we offered companies to some trainings. There were 140 companies, and we selected 70 from them to go further and give them small, easy money, 2,000 euros to start with. So whatever you want to do on digital world, easy money, just for quick fixes. But we said you have to use the Digino tool to measure yourself, to understand yourself better, and to compare with others, so you will know better where you stand.
Thank you. Very good. I was looking now the questions also from the workshop. Thank you. There's quite many of them, but some of them I have to say are rather long. So I tried to get some short, how to shorten them then a little bit. I think your points were very, very good and practical, what you brought out, that how you can use them. And then you also pointed out that this kind of, let's say that the 2,000 euros example what you brought, can this be this kick, what Ola mentioned, that we have to do some kind of small kicks, and also that you can start smaller. Ola mentioned the slicing the elephant, I think. It doesn't sound so good, but the idea is right, to take the small ones, small bites, that this can be the first bite, like.
I think that the companies are very different. So for some companies I interviewed personally before we started, said that we need to get from paper to digital. Some companies said, and we are talking about smaller companies where employee size of 20 to 50, maybe 70. And for bigger companies from there, they are much better shape. But in more small companies, they are so small already and so efficient already. So the capacity to starting with such kind of projects is limited, because they don't have the workforce for that, even on the managerial level. So first things we suggested to start with was to clear the flop shore, clear the shop floor. So start with small steps, find out where your problems are, try to make a map for the quick fixes, but then keep in mind also the bigger scale.
Thank you. Māra, there's one question for you. That you mentioned, Anders, that this kind of self-assessment tools and then the material from there also could give information for the public sector. Is this something what you have also taught in the self-assessment tool, that how to give from there this kind of overall results to the public sector, that how they could use it in their future planning process?
Yes, exactly. First of all, it's about seeing which sectors are lagging behind, so you can provide different financial instruments to support them. Also, you can see the business sectors where you need to invest more. And Knud, Erik already mentioned the security, but there are also digital transformation of production processes, digital transformation of financial and human management. So basically, it gives the ministries, the agencies, and also upcoming digital innovation hubs the idea where you need to provide both the awareness, the digital competence development, and also financial
We have in the workshop question for you, Ola. That, as I said, that hopefully we have time to come back to the blinking. I see the viewer also have the same question here. That how this blinking should be operational, how it should be done. I crossed my tongue. Separate, is it like from individual to individual to show it, or should it be done like in turning the awareness raising events, and how this should be done? Is there any kind of how to change the mindset?
Well, it's perhaps a way of art. I think we should look upon this blinking as a way of a metaphor to capture the importance of not really getting caught in let's say complexities of the bigger picture. I think all of this has been much better now, but in the early beginnings, we tended to talk, we as the support system to SMEs, we tended to talk quite a lot about disruptivity and the high-end technologies, and we said that if you are not digitalized or next week you should be out of the market and so forth. And we think that many of the digitalization starting points are actually at another end. I think it was Anders that also mentioned, like looking for pains and what is actually disturbing your production or your administration or whatever it might be, and turning these pains into gains. So we need to be able to focus on short-term gains, at least initially. But then we also need to blink. We should dare to blink the bigger picture, to showcase a vision towards where we are heading. And then again, as digitalization moves on within a company, we need to extend the time then in how much we look upon this specific technology or strive towards a more obvious goal of the transition or transformation. If it's supposed to be done, well, to whom? To anybody, on how to understand the transformation. But we talk quite a lot about the initiative that has to come from the management level of the company, not necessarily only the CEO, but the management level. And then turning also as a management effort, turning this initiative into movement within the company. And then again, awareness as lowering the bar for doing things and doing more activities rather than projects is important. And from management side also to encourage and share opportunities within digitalization that you have seen, for example, within one area can be duplicated into another area, and taking further and further steps down the road.
Yeah. Actually, there's, I think, quite good, tricky question. I would like to address it to you, Knud. That we have spoken here during the seminar very much about different kind of examples and supportive processes done for the SMEs. But is it really the only way that is it the digitalization and support of digitalization must be a way for the SMEs? Or maybe we can say just that the best solutions are just on the way yet, and they can calmly wait. What happens if they're waiting? Just.
I think somebody said before that it depends a bit where you are. What are you doing? But in quite a lot, and increasingly almost all industries, activities, you have to have some level of digitalization. I mean, your minister mentioned that you have to do digital invoicing to the public sector. So that's the basic you have to do as a company. So companies cannot do without digitalization. I mean, and increasingly the competitiveness is about being digital in more and more ways. So of course it's different. I mean, if you're producing software, then it's quite obvious. If you're producing apples, it's less obvious. But we have seen also for apples, I mean, the way you are, when you know how to actually put fertilizers in, when to reap apples, and all these things increasingly are also done digital, and it's done more effectively. So I think it's a bit, I mean, it depends a bit, but more and more of the economy is digital, and you cannot avoid being part of that.
I agree very much. Actually, there's a question about that. Torben mentioned in his overview that the financial support for digitalization is a challenge. And there was also a question or marks from his side about cross-border and sharing this kind of information about how different public sector entities and in cross-border are also supporting the digitalization. What do you think? How important is this kind of coordination cross-borderly between the countries, that how different countries are supporting their SMEs in the digitalization part? Should it be, is it something what could be beneficial, or is it something where every country is working of their own? Who would like to start? Yeah.
I mean, definitely for small countries like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Denmark, Finland, it's of the utmost importance because, I mean, we are trading with each other. And if you have a system, and we are trying to export to Estonia, you have a system that doesn't match with our system. And of course, we should try to do this at least European level so we can export to anybody. But I think anybody who have tried to export something or just to buy something, and if it's not done digitally in the same format, it's simply a hassle. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely a big step forward if we can get these things coordinated, to my mind.
Anders, you would like to continue?
Yes, thank you. I think that as close as possible to our client, we are counseling them as home doctors. We should know as much as possible where the pain is, where the gains are, because all that they need is a return of investment. And they worried about the return of investment because the problems are raising everywhere. So that's the main issue. So if we're going large scale internationally, then it's too much bureaucracy to them, also for us. So we have to keep it short and simple so they understand, because they don't have time, they don't have people to manage it.
Okay.
But I agree, it gets complicated if you, as an organization in Estonia, to coordinate with Germany and Italy. That's not possible.
Yep.
But somebody should do it. Somebody should do it.
Question of scale.
Yes,
right.
Question of scale. Yep. And then you should be handled the solution. But definitely somebody should take care that this is a process under development, in my mind.
So Māra and Ola, as you see, we're heating up the conversation here already. That who would like to involve their point of view? Okay, Māra, please go on.
So I believe that coordination is absolutely valuable, but the coordination can be on two levels. One is the legal coordination, which really might involve a lot of formalities. But the other way is the consultation process. And I think we have done a lot of good practices here in Diginoka, because we had this consultation about financial support instruments for SMEs in different countries. So I can say, okay, it works very well in Estonia or Poland. Why don't we suggest to our ministry in Latvia? And the other things that we are really looking forward is the digital innovation hubs, again, to see how similar and best practices can be transferred from country to country. And I believe this coordination is very important.
Your comments.
Yeah. Like Knud Erik, I'm reaching forward as well to have a more intense discussion, but I totally agree with what you say previously here. And I think perhaps also one thing is we cannot, since we now are EU, we really cannot be excluded into countries. It's a question of competitiveness in terms of the countries within the EU that we have to strive for. Also, a short comment upon the ROE question, return of investment. Yes, we have to respect that in terms of the SME companies, and that is much what we talk about when we talk about awareness and lower the bar for things. But we also need to then, again, blink like this, the return of investment of tomorrow. Many of the companies have quite a lot of focus on the ROE of today, but perhaps not that much of the ROE of tomorrow, and start to preparing for the ROE of tomorrow and learning about the ROE of tomorrow.
Thank you. I actually have to say my own comment also here, that I very much align also with Māra, that turning for example, when negotiations about resilience funds were, then it helped us very much that we had good partners in the Diginoka project in different countries, and that we had a chance to discuss with them that, hey, there should be like 20% for the digitalization, how it's in your country the plan to use it, in which activities, how to make it in this way that also the SMEs getting support from there, and this kind of share the best practices, share the experiences, because from there this kind of overall competitiveness of the region also raises, and that's also important. But yeah, in the same time, understand the Anders' point of view that it should be also supported very clearly in the local level, very individually. But this kind of overall rules, what helps us to compete more generally. Altogether, I think that's also important part. Okay, but let's now look at to the future. In that sense, that what else could be done? Okay, we spoke what we have done, what kind of possibilities are, or what kind of challenges are there. Yeah, and sadly we learned that there are no silver bullet to solve everything. But what else could be done? That is there any kind of like suggestion, concrete points, what should be now addressed by the industry organizations, by public sector stakeholders, by universities? So this kind of, let's say, triple helix, how we can support SMEs in the future in the best way? That is a question to you all. So, Andres, let's start from you.
Yeah, thank you. I think public sector should start their own digitalization also, not only telling to the companies that you should digitalize. So I think there is big steps ahead to in cooperation to do to minimize bureaucracy, and that's a big issue. So we should be just in time as the companies need it to be. So we should know better when and how to help every individual company, and it means that our public sector and support organizations are well digitalized, and they know very well all the situation of each company, and then these self-assessment tools will become very handy, because then we can measure them, they can themselves measure them and do it on the international scale. That's the first thing. And second is build confidence among the companies and do it also not nationally, but also internationally. This is not a question about how big the company is, because in our sessions there were some examples about very small companies who are very well digitalized, and that's the false kind of picture about that. You should be big. No, you can be small also to digitalize, and we should give this awareness to many companies as we can.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I again very much agree with what you say on the stage. I think it is what Andres says. You have to look upon and you have to understand companies to see where they are and how to support them. And in that, in terms of building competitiveness in a larger scale, we shouldn't forget also the supply side. The service providers and the consultants and also the tech suppliers, they also need to develop and understand the transformation better to meet the SMEs in a better way. Not just selling on them the latest technology, but also understand, as Anders pointed out previously, that their pains and how to achieve gains from that pain. I think then, since we are still talking quite a lot about, I don't really like the term, but more low-end technologies in terms of what we can do with digitalization, we have also to remember that the journey within the companies is quite long. We have to work with them over years now and accelerate that work in terms of getting into more high-end solution to the companies, and looking also not only within the company, looking at the supply chain and looking at the horizontal level where we can gain much more of effect to the competitiveness.
Thank you. Māra?
Yeah, what I would like to add was said already. I think still the awareness is very, very important, and not just the carrot showing the benefits, but also the stick approach. And actually, for our Smart Latvia campaign, we use a slogan. At the moment, someone is training himself, and what are you doing? So this awareness raising. And the second, I like to stress the competence development for the managers, for the employees, because when we did the research with the companies who are lacking behind, what are the most barriers, then it was not the finance actually, but it was lack of ICT specialists, lack of digital skills, and lack of understanding about the new technology. So I would say awareness and digital competence development is something that the public sector and also industry associations should put more effort.
Thank you, Māra. Knud, your final thoughts.
Thank you. I think it's absolutely mandatory that something is done for cybersecurity issues related to SMEs. I think it's simply a really, really burning issue. And there I think one has to use the tools Māra is saying to create these programs, like Ola is saying, to take the point of departure with the companies where they are. I'm not only saying that because we have agreed to say something nice about each other, but also because I agree, because we have to do that. But then I think we simply have to use also technology. I mean, we will not get a covering program for SME cybersecurity without having some kind of automated measure, which small and medium-sized companies can actually simply trust and use in their production processes. So some kind of artificial intelligence-based system that is simply rolled out to small and medium-sized companies. Because the way you see it now from all the major organizations like OECD, like the EU, like what have you, they have three basic issues to companies, all of them. They say, be aware of the problem, train your security staff, modify your organization. And you go to that with a small company, with 5 or 6 companies, and they will say, where's my security officer? They will say, how do I actually get awareness of the imposing cyber threats? And how do I modify my organization? This doesn't help. It's not helpful at all. So a completely new attitude towards this development of cybersecurity is absolutely mandatory. And it's really a burning issue, I think.
Thank you. Actually, thank you to you all. I have to say that this time fly up so fastly and we only peeled the onion, the first layers, and the questions came more and more, and yeah, we could stay longer here. But it has been absolutely pleasure and honor to work with you in the project together and also here to be on the stage. And hopefully all the participants also enjoyed the panel as we enjoyed ourselves here, and all the topics are for you also so important as it have been all the panelists here. Thank you to you all.